Hi, welcome to Grateful Off-Grid. This channel is dedicated to the process of building our dream off-grid barn dominium on our property here in Central Oregon. Today's video is going to showcase the construction of our fence around our property, the type of fence we did, the cost, as well as just the process of building it. So let's dive right in.
All right, so the fencing that we decided to go with is a field fencing, and the squares up at the top are larger than the squares down at the bottom. We did that for a couple reasons. One, we have dogs, so as we walk our dogs and have our dogs on the property, we don't have to worry about our dogs running through this. And then, it helps with coyotes and other predators from just running through the fence and coming in. Each roll of fence that we got is 330 feet long, which is standard for most rolls of fencing. And the way that the engineering on these H braces work is you've got two posts in the ground. These are about 2.5 feet in the ground. Then you have your support up top. We used a galvanized bar. And then you have wire that goes from one side to the other. Now this one is in the middle of a fence, so it has wire going both ways. We'll show you on a corner where if you're only pulling the fence, like if this was at the end and we were pulling the fence this way, then the wire that comes up this direction would be the wire that you'd want to have, and you wouldn't need to have this other wire on here. So we used juniper. We ended up doing, I think, over 30. I think it was like 33 H braces, and having these on our property already was very nice. They had already been cut from the year before, so they were nice and dry, which helps with the rotting in the ground. For all of the galvanized bars, I think that was like 1,400. This is a high tensile 12 gauge wire, or like 12.5 gauge. And then we use these gripples, which are super nice. There's a tool you can use that you can just tighten. And so this is 6 months later after we built the fence, and this wire is loose, and I can come back through and I can just use that gripple tool and tighten it up. So this is a pretty nice way to do this. We'll drill holes through our juniper log, and we'll take a piece of rebar and we'll slide it all the way through, and that piece of rebar, it comes into about here. We'll put our pipe on it, and then we'll, same thing over here, scoot the pipe in and slide this rebar in. This rebar is what holds this wire in place down here. We have a staple down at the bottom, and that holds our wire down at the bottom down here. So we did T-posts every 12 feet, and you want to think about, there's these ribs on here so that you can attach these clips, and these clips they're little triangles. So if you run your fence on the other side, it makes it really difficult to use these clips to attach your fence to your T-post. When you're drilling your holes, you don't want to drill your holes for your H-brace in the same line. You want to scoot them over a little bit so that you can pull your fence straight. All right, so we are getting ready to get started on doing a little fencing here. We've got some galvanized pipe for our H braces and some field fencing, the shovel, a fence puller, all loaded up in the Ranger. And then we got some juniper logs here on the tractor. Got shell here. And then we just made this morning. So what we did is right here, this was a 3-point attachment where you would hook a trailer up to. And then I just welded together a rectangle with some 1.5" 0.9 thickness. And then I took a lid to a barrel, one of the 55-gallon barrels, flipped it upside down, put a sheet of plywood under it, and welded some supports. That holds the wire up, gives it a good place to rotate, and then drilled a hole in that to be able to put this galvanized bar down into, and then we just have this extra sewer pipe over it just to reduce on the friction. And then this will just be for unrolling the fencing, and then once we get it unrolled and where we want, then we'll hook up a come along with a fence stretcher and tighten it that way. But figured we'd save some money, make our own, and yeah, we're gonna head down and start putting in some H braces and pulling some wire. We already got the T-posts in. I figured we'd jump on here and do a little commentary, give you a little bit about the project at hand. And so we're getting ready to fence in 90 acres, and we were kind of waiting to do this project till our house was built because of the time we knew it was going to take. But we had a few trespassers. The last person that came in just seemed pretty sketchy. So yeah, we decided let's just make it happen and get this fence done. You can see our fire skid there.
That's my dad helping us. Oh yeah, we didn't have our steel tamper at first.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's like just looking for stuff all the time.
Yeah. My dad was a great help during the whole project. He was out there every day. I mean, we started at 6 in the morning and we would work until, what, 7 or 8 at night every day.
Yeah. It's nice all these juniper posts came off of our property and they had time to dry before putting them in the ground, which was good. And then we bought all of the galvanized pipe from our metal supplier. I went with a thinner pipe. There was 2 options that they carried in stock, and I went with this. It's kind of like the thickness you'd find on like a trampoline frame or something. But I knew that it didn't need to hold a lot of vertical weight. It was mostly like compression. And so these bars, I'm really glad I went with these. It saved, I think we spent like $1,400. All right, Shell's just hanging out over here with the dogs, just chilling. And look at what was just crawling on Shell. Totally cool, Shell. You found a scorpion.
It found me. It was crawling on me.
He's totally got a stinger up.
Yeah, he was ready to fight me. I don't like that.
All right, what were we doing? Oh yeah, that's right, putting a fence to keep the scorpions out.
Yeah, you can see me still feeling like the scorpion's crawling on me. I did not like that. Anyways, I want to explain this more.
Yeah, we're using a Gripple, which I'm stoked on. These have been, they made the project, I think, a lot smoother. They're not that expensive. But you can't crank super hard on them. I know some people like to, you know, rip their posts out of the ground by tightening it up so much, but it does get pretty tight. Yeah, it's important when we cut these and trim these wires that we always leave just enough to grab it again.
Oh, I know, I slept so well last night, I don't know why I'm tired.
I did want to point out, in case anybody noticed, our entryway in the background there is kind of cool. Those are all made out of power poles that the power company came in and replaced about a year ago. We saw them replacing the big power line poles and we asked if we could have those, and they said yes. So Kurt got that entryway put together. Do you know what this tool is called?
Yeah, just like a fence puller. So our first one was just hooks, and you got to get the kind that have a bar with some C-channel, and then with the bolts, you can see I'm tightening there. It pinches along your whole fence. The kind that have the hooks don't work that well because they just pull the wire,
the wire
and slide the vertical wire across the horizontals. And so that's, if you're going to get a fence puller, that's the type to get right there. We didn't use this come along during the whole project. Just got easier to use the tractor. So this is where we first started realizing how important it is to analyze which direction you want your T-post to face based on which side of the fence you can drive your tractor to unroll the fence. I didn't analyze that when we were doing our fence layout, but that's something important to think about. Which side of the fence can you drive the tractor on? Which side of the fence is going to be going on the H-brace? And that will determine which way each T-post face between, so that you can clamp your T-post to the fence in the right direction. These had all been lined up with a string and just lightly tapped into the ground.
That gas-powered T-post driver was a game changer.
Yeah. You want hearing protection for that. Definitely really fortunate to be able to have all this equipment.
Yeah, our fire skid made a huge difference in the project, being able to have water on hand, as well as just using the trailer to haul all the tools around.
Yeah, it's super dry here in Central Oregon, and so having water is crucial. I know that it's not as crucial for everywhere, but it was definitely nice. And like Shell said, we were able to use that to hold the fence puller and a whole bunch of tools. We skipped way ahead. We didn't film a lot of this process because
we spent maybe a total of 3 weeks building our fence.
Yeah, we just got to a point where we were like, we just got to get this done. And then about halfway through where we're at now, I'm like, no, let's keep recording some of this and try to make it happen.
We're well into the process at this point, and you're starting to do the clearing. A lot of this clearing for the fence had been previously done over the last couple of years. Kurt's been working on limbing trees and taking juniper and sagebrush out, and we had some employees working for our construction company last year that we actually got help with them laying out some of the T-posts ahead of time. So
pretty much all the T-posts.
Yeah, we didn't have to do all of the work with this initially. It's been spread out over the last few years, but it was still a ton of work. And thank goodness for the skid steer to just rip these junipers out and clear the path. This winter we'll come back and probably burn the majority of this, right?
Yeah, we'll burn them all. There's only a few that we'll save for posts.
Pretty good.
This part, we're using the staple gun, but then I got to drive these staples in pretty deep because when I take the pressure off of the tractor, all that pressure goes onto those staples, and once we take the pressure off, then I can cut the fence and bend it around the staple, and then I know once I bend it, it's not going to slide. But there were a couple of times where I didn't hammer the staples in deep enough, and when I took the pressure off, some of the fence would slide through and we'd lose our pressure or lose our tension. And so we were pulling this. We've got a 35 size tractor, and we've got beet juice in the tires, and we would pull it until the wheels would spin and just get it super tight. And it's still, we're doing this voiceover, it's been 6 months, not quite 6 months.
Yeah, it's been a while since we built the fence, but
Yeah.
we're getting caught up here.
And the fence is still really tight everywhere, which is good. I haven't had to go around and tighten any of those gripples, but
At this point, we have learned which way to make the T-post face.
yeah, which again is based on which side of the fence you're going to be pulling with the tractor to unravel.
Oh, I think there's a train coming. Gotta salute the hardworking people of the train industry. It's pretty fun having a train run through the property. Every day we just get to see them coming through, and every day we wish they would just leave some of the lumber for us.
Yeah.
But for some reason
Or
they don't.
diesel.
They don't do that. They just keep going. Do you remember, Kurt, how much that tool would have been, like that attachment for the tractor for pulling the fence, if we had bought it instead of you making it?
Yeah, I saw some that were like 800 roughly. I mean, there were some that were like 1600. We probably only have less than $100 of material into this.
Sorry if you're getting sick watching this, but it's the only footage we got of me driving the tractor, so, you know, we gotta leave it in there. My dad actually did drive the tractor quite a bit while we laid the fencing out and got it clipped to the T-posts. And we didn't get any footage of this, but my sister came and helped for several days, as well as a really good friend of mine, Becky. She was out helping us quite a bit as well. And we're so grateful for our friends and family who show up for us when we need them. I mean, this is no small project, and it feels really good to have the whole thing done now.
Our neighbors got quoted to get 60 acres fenced on their property, and it was like $115,000. And we'd estimated someone probably would have charged us 50 or 60, but to hear that number, it was like, whoa, that's a really huge savings that we did by doing it ourselves.
And we have about $17,000 in material. Now, obviously, we also have a tractor and a Ranger and a skid steer that have aided in the process. But if you're just looking at the cost of material, there's a big difference between $17,000 and $100,000. What?
You were stretching.
It's a lot of work.
I didn't even notice that. There's the star right there.
This is who it's all for.
Cheese. Cheese.
Good job.
right, so we got these private property no trespassing signs on Amazon. We got two 12 packs and then a beware of dog. And then I saw in my shop from a long time ago, we got this one, no through traffic, dead end. We've got some old trail cams here, and then some fake security cameras that I've had for, I don't know, 5 years or something. So loaded up got some little screws, 3/4 inch screws, some deck screws, and I'm gonna cut a bunch of plywood. So we've got a whole bunch of this plywood scrap. Those are 3-foot pieces, and that's from doing our forms. So underneath our forms here, there's a 3x3 footing in the stem wall, and so we've got all this scrap wood, so it works out perfect. Figure if I cut those in half, that's perfect. So all right, let's cut some of these and get an assembly line going on here. Sweet, there's 8.
Do you remember how many signs we ended up doing?
I think we had like 20, 24. I don't know. I think we just said in the video.
I wasn't paying attention to us. Do you think someone else was also not paying attention to us?
Probably.
Probably. Henry got sap on his hands, and I'm trying to get him to put his hands in the dirt to get it off.
Yeah, our Ranger is pretty clean all the time.
Yeah, we rarely keep stuff in there that we don't need. Spray paint. WD-40. Tums. Always have to have Tums. Poor Olive, she's so confused about the fence. It's actually been really great knowing that we can have our dogs out there, and we were never worried about our dogs, but other people's dogs.
So this is what one of those signs looks like after a year, maybe 9 months, being out in the weather. All the colors totally gone, but you know, still a good price. Still readable. this is what the new ones look like. So we'll see. It's good if we can keep that in mind, put them in a spot that's a little bit more shady, be a little easier, brighter to read.
I wanted just a little bit of shade, so I found our smallest umbrella to bring out. It was really hot.
It was. What was it, like 95 degrees?
Yeah, it was so hot when we
100.
were building the fence. As we mentioned, it took us about 3 weeks to get our fence totally built and complete. At this point, we have a total of 90 acres fenced in, and it's been a huge improvement to the overall property, not only for the safety of our animals, but just for the added layer of security, because as you saw, we have started to build our stem wall. So if you followed along for the build of our fence, we appreciate you watching, and we look forward to showing you the first steps of building our barndominium, which is getting our stem wall done.
Yeah, we've got a full off-grid project. It's going to be tons of great content over the next 5 years. Self-sustaining, off-grid living. A lot of, pretty much we're going to do everything ourselves. There's very little that we won't be doing ourselves. So we're going to try to share all of that. And
Yeah, so if you like what we're up to, like and subscribe, and we'll see you at the next video.
Yeah, appreciate it.